could be thinking about my dad today anyway, being Father's Day and all. But given that today's apparent theme has to do with boats and storms, thinking about Daddy seems especially fitting, for you see, one of my most indelible memories of my father was in a boat in a storm. I know it was more than 50 years ago now, because I was just a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old. And yet I remember it as if it were yesterday. Get this. We were camping out in the boat on Caddo Lake. Okay? Camping. And at some time in the night, there came a storm. And as I recall, it was a rather violent storm. And so there we were, in a 26-foot aluminum boat in the middle of Caddo Lake in a thunderstorm. Today it would be called child abuse. Right? The boat was about 26 feet long, but it was an open affair, no cabin. We had a tarp and sleeping bags, and that was it. Indeed, all things considered, it was very much like the boat from this morning's gospel reading. About the same size, in fact, open boat. And I was cold and wet and miserable, and even at that young age wondering what in the world we were doing there. But you know what? Unlike the disciples in their boat, I don't remember being afraid. And I suspect that's because my dad was there. For you see, I trusted my dad. I believed in him. Indeed, I don't remember who else was there. But I remember my daddy. And I remember him telling me that he had learned in the Army that the best way to stay warm when you're sleeping outside was to sleep back to back. And so that's what we did. My dad and me on that cold, wet, stormy night. We slept back to back. It was only much, much later that it dawned on me that Daddy must have learned about sleeping warm in the cold while trying to survive the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium, December of 1944, the coldest winter on record. My father was not a great man, but he was a good man. He served his country with distinction, and he worked hard, and he took care of his family. A self-acknowledged heathen. Oh, yes. My old man, nonetheless, came to church and brought his family almost every Sunday because he thought it was the right thing to do. With jet black hair and startling blue eyes, he was prettier than any of his sons. He was smart and warm and charming and funny, and those eyes twinkled when he laughed. Come this August, he will have been gone from this earth for 27 years. Hard to believe. You may well believe that I'm thinking of him on this Father's Day. Now, as to the disciples, they were afraid on their boat, right? They were terrified when that storm came up. You see, unlike their northern cousins, the Phoenicians, the children of Israel were not seafarers. It really is an amazing thing to contemplate. Though they were a coastal nation, as far as we know, they never ventured out on the Mediterranean. This, in fact, may help us to understand why they would refer to a lake 13 miles long and 8 miles wide as the Sea of Galilee. Right? I mean, y'all, it's Cross Lake. Really? But to them it must have seemed enormous. Now, I have been on the Sea of Galilee on a houseboat. We took the tour. And I've been on Cross Lake too, way back when we belonged to the yacht club. Uncle Dick sailed, and Daddy was part of the power squadron. And I well remember being a kid how choppy it could get on that lake. Scary, really. And those regattas out there, those sailboats are always going on, right? And apparently the Sea of Galilee is kind of like that. So get this picture. In an open boat at night, right? Given the fact that probably none of them could swim, nor would there have been any life preservers because they weren't invented yet. In that storm, we may well imagine that the disciples were afraid. The boat would have been going like this, right? Rain and wind and lightning. They would have been terrified. And by any human measure, rightly so. Now Jesus, on the other hand, he was taking a nap. Really, he was taking a nap. It's my favorite part of the story. Okay? The disciples are freaking out, and Jesus was taking a nap, and the only difference, get this, the only difference was that Jesus trusted God, and they didn't. Not yet. Listen. Jesus trusted God, and so Jesus knew whatever happened, it was going to be okay. And so he wasn't worried at all. I told this story to the Brown Bag Bible study the other day. Years ago, I was a summer camp counselor, okay, many years ago, 21, 22 years old. And back then, we used to teach the kids how to rappel, right? That is how to go off a cliff on a rope, right? Now I'm talking about the Rangers do it, right? Now, as you might imagine, when it comes to rappelling, that first step is the hardest one, right? It's a doozy because you have to step backwards into midair, okay? But we used to teach the kids how to do that. And it's a funny thing. But with the little kids, 7, 8 years old, in that context, it was usually no big deal, right? They'd be on the rope at the top of the cliff. Okay, I'd get right here with them. And I'd say, okay, I need you to trust me. They go, right? I'd say, you're going to be just fine. And they go, and then I'd say, go ahead and step off. And they would, right? Just boogity, boogity, boogity down that cliff. Couldn't wait to come back up, go down again. But with the teenagers, it was often a different story. Y'all, we gave them exactly the same instructions. Some of them never would go down, right? They just couldn't make that first step. Get this. They had forgotten how to trust. They forgot how. Like the disciples on that boat, and I suspect like most of all, us as well, they've forgotten. You say we say we believe in God. We say we believe in Jesus, and in principle we do, but in actuality we don't trust God very much, do we? When it comes to the storms of our lives, big storms, little storms. Once in a great while we have a hurricane, somebody dies, some great loss. But most of the storms in our lives are just little things, and they happen all the time, right? All the time, all the time. All of them opportunities for us to trust God, you see. That's why Jesus said that we had to become like little children. Remember that when he said that? You had to become like little children? I always thought he meant that we had to be innocent, or pure, or meek and mild or whatever. But I have come to understand that what Jesus was saying was that we have to learn to trust like a little child trusts. It is, in fact, our life's work to grow young again. To grow young again. Just like me on that boat in that storm with my daddy. I wasn't afraid at all. I was miserable. But I wasn't afraid. Just like the little kids on that rappelling cliff. And just like Jesus asleep on that cushion. He trusted his Father, and so he knew it would be okay. I mean, do you understand the dissonance between Jesus asleep and they're all going crazy? 20-foot boat, right? Y'all, every time a storm comes, be it big or small, it's really nothing more than yet one more chance to trust God. Yet one more opportunity to put ourselves in His hands where we have nothing to fear. Nothing. Doesn't matter what happens. We're in God's hands. Isn't that neat? Now you understand, Jesus really did calm that storm. It was no big deal. That storm looked a whole lot worse than it was. And in fact, in my experience, most storms are like that. Right? Jesus calmed that storm. And He'll calm ours as well. It is simply a matter of trust. Lead us, Lord. Amen.
Amen.